What is up, guys, and welcome to episode 3 of the Nexus podcast, Star Wars Edition, Revenge of the Podcast. I hope everyone's doing well today. Today we are going to talk about set 2 cards and some set 2 deck list ideas that we have just on initial thoughts. They've just finished spoiling all the cards just a week before pre-release, or roughly a week before pre-release, so very exciting times in the Star Wars Unlimited universe. So, without further ado, we're going to get on with the podcast. Normal hellos, Krishiv, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about Star Wars. I'm sick, so if I sound snotty, that's why. But I'm very excited to talk about the absolute nonsense I've cooked up for you all. It's terrible, terribly good, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
think we're all trying to win the most terrible deck idea. Maybe the mission should be to like win some kind of tournament with these crazy decks that we're showing today. Yeah, to prove how good or bad they are. But yeah, what about you, Ollie? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Like you said, it is hot.
Sweltering.
It's too hot.
And we're going to Milan this weekend, so it's going to be even hotter. But
yeah. No, I'm excited for Milan. I'm really excited to see everyone again. And yeah, looking forward to talk some card games.
Hell yeah. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to Milan as well. I'm judging Battle Spirits, but I am taking Star Wars decks because some of the staff in our downtime, we're going to be playing some Star Wars there.
And we're going to get Emmy to play some games as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Harry.
And Harry,
we need him on in it, right?
We're going to just take it everywhere with us and be like, game of Star Wars, game of Star Wars. You know?
We're going to be running some demo games.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like the Asmodee guys, yeah. And we need to get like uniforms for it. But yeah, anyway, enough of that. We are going to get into this now. We're going to pretty much go straight into it. So what we've done, we've cooked up a deck list each. These decks are, full disclosure, kind of fun, like initial ideas, just kind of like, what sort of madness we can do. Weirdly, we all work separately on this. And we've all come up with mono-colored decks, all from different aspects as well, which is quite kind of hilarious. But yeah, we'll get into that now. So we're just going to switch the screen. All right. So pretty much, I'll start off. So my deck idea is a mono-yellow handbush deck, which basically, my idea is where some of the new cards that I really like, which we'll get into soon, are double yellow aspect, and just being able to play them a turn ahead and stuff can potentially be really fun. But yeah, this deck is a bit of a troll deck, but I really like the potential idea of how it can work. So essentially with Han, how I like to play Han is trying to play a turn ahead always, and especially this was fundamental in my deck in UKGE. I was playing a lot of free costs that have 4 defense, like Ezra, and there were a few others. I was playing green, so I had a few more options there. But no, this new Coruscant Descendant, I think it is, 3/4 on attack, ready a resource for free is a really nice card, I think, to play on turn 1 if you can. If you can get that out with the early ramp with Han. So yeah, I mean, that's just, for example, one of the nice new cards. But yeah, so the idea would be on turn 1 to get one of these free costs out, maybe even DJ if I don't have a good spot. Obviously, I know his smuggle effect is very important. We'll get to that. But yeah, so turn 1, do that. And then in this new set, for some reason, they thought it would be a good idea to add another 2 bounce events. So we've got, which I'll bring up on screen now, a new adventure. Now, obviously, you can use this on your own cards to great effect, and that kind of ties in with all of the more top-endy cards having ambush. It's kind of I ambush a card in, and then maybe if I want to clear something else, I'll just play a new adventure, then ambush it in again to take out 2 things with 1 card. And then obviously when it comes back to hand, it loses all of the damage that it had from the first swing. So, I mean, that to me seems like a super effective card. 6s or less as well. So there's quite a lot of options for me. But it can also work on your opponent's cards, that don't have ambush. So you can just return them, and then obviously they get to play it again. But you're basically like stalling a turn stalling a turn of that thing's attack for 2 energy, which I think is really strong, to be honest. But yeah, no,
and you get rid of the upgrades and stuff that are on it.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. So you're just basically like popping it. They are bringing it back, but the versatility of being able to use it on your own things with ambush, or say Cantina Bouncer, for example, which means you can bounce your Cantina Bouncer and then bounce something off of their field, and then if it's taking damage, you're healing it. It just seems like a fun little card and play line, and the 2 aspects, having no penalty there is going to be nice to play that for 2. But yeah, so basically the strategy is get something out, 3 cost turn 1, bounce some things. You got spare the target as well, which is another 3 cost bounce. You also claim the bounty on that one, which could be relevant against some opponents like Jabber and stuff. So that's just like another waylay basically, which is, to me, is insane. Like having so many bounce spells, adding waylay on top of that, and cunning, which is also in aspect. It means after you've played your big 3 cost, the idea is just to bounce until you can get to 7 energy, and then you play DJ. Now, what's great about DJ in Han is if you can play it from Smuggle, you get to steal an opponent's energy. Now, the fantastic thing is that you can, at the beginning of your upkeep, if DJ survives, you can destroy your opponent's energy. And then obviously that means that you get to keep, I think I'm explaining this right. You basically get to keep the energy that you've stolen through destroying it through your Han effect, essentially. So even if DJ dies, they don't get the energy back, and you don't lose one of the energy that you've charged. So, I mean, it's just amazing. And at that point, obviously your opponent's lost an energy. You're at a swing point where they've got less energy to play with, and you can almost play 2 things a turn at this point. So from there on, after you bounce things for 3 turns, you've played DJ, stolen an energy. At that point, you start killing, and that's where all the ambush comes in. Because when your opponent's playing things that are smaller energy amounts, having cards like Emphy's Nest, which gives all of the units that you attack -3, -0 when you attack with ambush. Do you know what I mean? It's really, really good tempo. And obviously Han's amazing, having the free shoot first. But yeah, so the idea is basically to outvalue, and you've got a bit of hand destruction with Bodhi Rook and stuff like that. And yeah, just if you can do the bounces on the first few turns, get the DJ out, steal the energy, have that energy sort of misbalance, and then start just killing off all of their things, you'll get there really quickly. But yeah, so what do you guys think of this deck? Is there anything interesting? I'll just quickly go through the other cards. DJ, amazing card, very fun. The main reason to play 2 aspect yellow is because the smuggle costs 2, and Han obviously can get to 7 pretty quick, like very quickly. So yeah, and then the other card that I had was the Final Showdown. Yeah. So this is a really fun card, which has me excited because when you play tempo decks, a lot of the time people will pass quite early on to take initiative, so to avoid you bouncing anything early. So being able to have Final Showdown, it kind of excites me because it gives me, more outs. Potentially I can do the damage twice in a row if they take initiative very early on. It just seems like a really exciting card to play after your opponent's taken initiative. Obviously, I wouldn't just risk it. I don't think this card's a card you just want to throw down when your opponent's got lots of energy up. It's kind of like a oops, you shouldn't have taken an initiative card for me. But yeah, I think that's going to be an exciting way to finish games. But yeah, what do you guys think of the idea of this deck then with DJ? And it's quite a degenerate sort of strategy. But what do you guys think?
I think like stealing a resource is like very, very powerful. And so Han does it on turn 4, right? Because you go to 5, you deploy your leader. So you go to 5, you use your leader effect. You go to 6, you deploy your leader. You swing, you go to 7, and then you bring it out. So your opponent on what there should be their 5 resource turn, they go down to 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're probably never gonna stop a leader from deploying by doing that, but you're definitely gonna like slow them down.
Well,
massively.
I mean, if they're a 6 energy leader, then which
yeah, of
which
course,
some of the strong ones are, but obviously not Boba. Boba, unfortunately, you can't stop that. It would be amazing if you could. I mean, you could potentially play the new Leia ramp card out of Aspect, because that would cost you 4, and then you'd be able to ramp one of your things from the drop, maybe that you ramped early game. So you'd have full value from your card you ramp from your hand, because you have to ramp with a unit that's in the drop, right? So
I think that was defeated during the phase.
Defeated during the phase.
You could make that work, yeah. I think interesting, like the interesting part about this deck for me is it probably like it flips what was it doesn't flip, but like I feel like Control just probably can't beat this. Like I don't really know what you do as Control, because like you're getting a resource stolen from you. If you just keep going, oh, here's my Bodhi Rook, a new adventure, a new adventure, a new adventure, and like they just lose all their hands. Like you can also, and then like fundamentally, like with the moment they claim, if you've got 6 resources up, you go cool, Final Showdown, GG.
Exactly.
I think Final Showdown is such a phenomenally underrated card, and it's like actually nuts. But I don't see many people talking about like how good it is. Like I think this card's truly crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it was fun. I think it was really fun.
I think this deck is gonna just be fun and surprise people maybe early on, maybe some early store showdowns and some early locals. It might be competitive. You never know really until you really test hard, which I haven't done. But I think the fundamental idea of it is pretty good. I think against aggro it won't have too much trouble, because aggro hates playing into tempo really, and if I'm bouncing everything before they're even swinging with it, it's going to be pretty nasty. But yeah, no, so just a fun idea from me. And yeah, we'll put the profiles in links in the description of the video, so you guys can check this stuff out if you're at all interested. But yeah, we're going to move on now. We're going to have a look at Krish's deck, which is Aggression Kylo double red.
So this is the kind of deck that I think I would play like day one, because it's gonna go so fast and people are just not gonna see it coming. And it has quite a lot of like burn tools, and it just seems very, very silly, fun, wacky, and goofy. So just to quickly explain Kylo, you tap, discard a card, and you buff something by +2 attack with the phase. So you turn your 3 attack units into 5 attack units on the second turn, and then like when he deploys, he's just 5 attack. Because realistically, you are quite easily dumping your whole hand. Or bare minimum, he's going to be 4 attack. I can't really see it realistically being like lower than that. And so what I've basically done with this deck is I've just gone, okay, let's play a metric ton of cheap, low to the ground units. We're going to flood the board.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Your second row, the final card on your second row is your first free cost in the deck.
Yeah.
And your most expensive card is Aggression, which is insane, really.
And I think, and basically, like, I think you basically, I mean, if you're not winning by like the 5 or 6 resource turn, you're probably not winning, I think, with this deck.
So
there's a lot of very, very
what would be the general strategy then? How would you like the ideal sort of the play line you would want to like kind of how I describe mine with the
So there's a lot of options for how you would want it to go, but essentially on turn 1 you're going to want to either play down 2 1-drops, so Death Star's Stormtrooper, or I can't remember what this card's called, Guavian Antagonizer. One of those, 2 of those, or one of your 2 drops. So that's going to be Wolf, TIE Silencer, Bo-Katan, Migs, or Mercenary Gunship. You're going to want to play down one of those.
All right, so let's have a little chat about Bo-Katan whilst we're here.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about Bo-Katan, because this card's crazy. This is the kind of card. So something to say, and the reason I wanted to build double red is it kind of existed in set 1, but it really just didn't have the depth of card pool necessary.
Yeah, to be fair, shout out to our buddy Andre. He actually played double red at UKGE.
I assume it was like double red Sabine.
I think he went Vader actually because he tested Sabine and it wasn't that fun for him, so he switched to
He's
Vader.
He's an avid double red.
Yeah.
Well, so I think so. This is one of the cards that you get in this new set. So I think, just to clarify, I think double red already had like actually some very, very good cards. Aggression is very good. Sorgarara is very good. Rallying Cry is very good, right? These are all good cards. But I think the issue was less the good double red cards. It was just there weren't actually that many good red and just red cards in general to like allow you to play a decent curve. That problem has been fixed with set 2. So Bo-Katan is just a crazy card. This is a 2-cost 3/3. Very, very happy about that. There's Mandalorian and Trooper traded, which matters, but not for this deck. And then, when defeated, for each player with 15 or more damage on their base, you draw a card. So this card just draws you 1 or 2 a lot of the time. And so later on in the game, you're happy playing this because you're going to get a draw 2 when they deal with it. And early in the game, well, fantastic. It's a 3/3, which means it's smacking face for 5 with Kylo leader. So
yeah, it does synergize very well with the draws, like because later game once you've done 15 damage is probably when you're going to be starving for cards, really. So
exactly, and especially in this deck when you're discarding to pump up your units, you will want cards coming later in the game. There's also a lot of cards in here that are like they're kind of, you're just dumping hand to, like, so for example, there's a card called Guild Target, which isn't one of the ones I sent, but it's a bounty that says when you claim the bounty, you deal 2 damage to a base, or if the unit that you defeated was unique, you deal 3 damage to a base.
That's the kind of thing. That's 0 cost as well, right?
It's a 0 cost. Yeah. So like turn 1, it's possible to play a Guild Target and you play down a 2-drop. On turn 2, what you're going to want to do is you want to use your Kylo leader effect to buff up whatever you've just played. Ideally, you will play Kylo's TIE Silencer or Mercenary Gunship in space because it's less likely your opponent's going to have an answer for those. And then you smack face for 5.
So the TIE Silencer, it's not one of your picked cards, but that's one of the legendaries of the set. So how do you rate that card? Because that has some synergy with the leader, if I'm not mistaken.
It does. So if you discard Kylo's TIE Silencer, you can play it from your discard. At any point during the phase at cost. So basically it means you're not, like, it mitigates the cost of a discard. I think
So you get the +2 for free essentially with that card.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, to be honest, I think we're just playing this card because it's a 3/2 ship.
Very strong, yeah.
Guys, you're going to see Mercenary Gunship in literally every single deck. I would be very, very surprised if this wasn't just you start building your deck, you take 3 copies of Mercenary Gunship, you put them in, and then you look at your leader and base, right?
Okay, that is one of your featured cards, right?
Yeah. It's
I'm very glad you brought that card up because I'm really excited to see that card in action.
This card's crazy.
It looks so good.
Like, it doesn't have a downside. If your opponent at any point is paying 4 resources to take a 2/3/2 ship, you are very happy with that exchange. Because firstly, you can just take it back, and secondly, if they've taken it, like, that's probably their turn done at a stage in the game when this card is even around, and at that point you're just like, okay, cool, I get to turn on my card sideways and do loads of damage. But anyway, so going back to basically the way the curve is going to work is on that 3 resource turn, you're buffing a unit, you're swinging with the unit, and then either you're playing a 3 drop down. You'll notice there's not that many of them. Punishing One or Toro Caligan are the only units. So let's talk about Toro because I sent that card in. So Toro is 3/5, and as far as this deck is concerned, that is it. And we're playing this card because 5 HP is quite sticky. 3/5 is like this is like the premier stat line for 3 drops. In set 1, it was just Boba who had it. In set 2, I think there's 5 or 6 3/5s now. and most of them, shocker, you get to play most of them in yellow villainy. You could have seen that coming. But but Toro is just a generic villainy one. Hero doesn't get a generic one they can use in all their decks. So you're very happy that we get this card. It's sticky. It's 5. You can slap upgrades on him, and he's probably not going to get used.
One little shout out to a card. It's a 2/5. It's called Tech, which makes all of your cards smuggle, which is a kind of pretty nice card. But yeah, we don't get any free 5s, I don't think, for free cost.
Yeah.
But Tech is Tech is a really nice free cost for sure. But yeah, we're
so
stuck with the free 4s, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty, right? Like 3/5 is where we're moving, and that's actually why a card like Bosk is looking a lot worse in this set, because 4 ambush is not so good into 3/5s. But anyway, so Toro and Punishing One, you're happy with either one of those you see, or of course you slam down a 2-drop, you slam down a 1-drop, you're building a wide board. On your 4 resource turn, you can now deploy. And at this point, your hand is basically empty, right? Because you draw 2 a turn, but you're discarding a card and you're resourcing a card each turn. So you're actually and you're then like playing cards down from your hands. So
I'm guessing you want to have no cards in hand. Is that how you're trying to fly?
Exactly. And so you wanna be going low in cards. So when you deploy on this turn, Kylo is probably coming out as a 4/4 or as a 3 or a 4/4, and ideally you can make him a 5/4 by just discarding your whole hand. So you can pitch 1 card from its effect to buff up something. You deploy him, and then you play the last card down from your hand, and he's a 5/4. If you slap a fallen lightsaber on Kylo and he comes down as an 8/7, guys, decks kind of are going to struggle to deal with an 8/7. That one's going to be a little bit challenging to deal with on turn 3. Especially when you've built like a fairly wide board, and they may just be struggling to even deal with the stuff you've already done. So that's basically the idea of the deck. Now, the other things you can play on that turn are Saw Gerrera. This is a 5/4 that starts punishing your opponent for playing removal events, or aggression. And really, these are just ways to, like, aggression. If your opponent has a unit you have to get rid of, you can aggression it away. But otherwise, you can, swing with something for 3 attack, restand it, draw a card, swing again. These are like decent plays.
At what point do you stop charging resources in this deck?
4 resources.
You stick at 4, yeah. You don't go, because that was basically what I was thinking. Because there's nothing above 4 cost, you can probably get away with it, and at that point you're just drawing.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll see, like, the way the curve of this deck is, like, it's so unlikely you will end up with, like, needing 6 or 7 resources. Like, you may, but, like, I mean, at that point, Kylo's probably going to die, it's going to have a target on its back, and then you just start discarding to pump. So the other 2 cards I sent in just before I round out how you finish off the game with this deck, Mercenary Gunship. I really need to emphasize how absolutely crazy this card is. Before, we, like, 3 attack ships in space, there was 1, there was 2, there was 1, and it was A-Wing, and it was actually a 1/3 that became a 3/3 on attack. This card is, like, absolutely meta defining in terms of, like, the stats you get in space, and it's so premier that in order to not give this card a downside and just print it, they gave it 2 aspects and made it a legendary. That's how good this, like, stat line is in space. So yeah, like, do not sleep on this. This card's really, really strong. There's a whole load of reasons to use it in other decks from its attributes, but in this deck, it's just a really, really good 3/2. And then let's talk about.
So do you honestly think this is a must-have in every deck because of its stat line?
I'd be extremely surprised if, maybe not every single deck, but, like, I think its play rate's probably going to be 80 or 90%. Like, I'd be really, really, really surprised if this wasn't played in almost everything. It's an uncommon, it's generic, it's amazing stats in space, and, like, the downside, as I say, like, maybe it ends up being the case that paying the 4 to just steal the unit is that good, but I very much doubt that you're going to be in a meta game where you always want to just steal this card. I think most of the time, like, it's just going to die, and at that point, there was no downside. You just got to play a 3/2 ship for free. To exist. So then the last card I sent in was the new double red aspect card, which
It's
is
a
called the Chaos of
crazy
War.
card, to be fair.
So
against
this is
control decks.
segueing nicely into how we finish off the game, right? So whilst we're dumping our hand and we're going down to the 0 card, 1 card hand, the opponent, if you do the maths, well, they're resourcing a card, and let's say they play a card each turn. That means they're probably hovering in and around 4 cards in their hand. So this is burn 4 for 3. Hey, you know what other card does burn 4 for 3? For a cause I believe in, except you have to build your entire deck around that card, and we all think it's crazy. So you just get to play this card, and this card has a, yes, it could do 3, it could do 2, but it's far more likely to be doing 4 or 5 or potentially 6. If you've played against like some of these decks, they can get like a pretty fat hand, right? You can be sitting there and they have just like a 6-7 card hand, and this just goes cool, burn 6. I don't know what control decks do against this, other than just be really, really.
That is actually disgusting, though, and that's something.
Yeah.
That's something that really kind of, you could even, if you're playing. This sounds crazy, but if you're playing against control decks that really do go long, you could side this in pretty much any deck just as an out to, a control player forcing you to play for 14 turns or something like that.
Yeah, and we've seen like people pay 6 for Spark of Rebellion, so I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility to see people pay 7 for the Chaos of War if it wins them the game, right?
No, I mean,
so yeah, no, 100%.
Crazy in some instances.
So the last couple cards that are worth talking about are Daring Raid and Migs, and these are kind of in the same boat. So Migs is when a player discards a card, you deal 2 damage to either a unit or a base. So this is more burn, which you can send right at the base. And then Daring Raid is deal 2 damage to a unit or base. So you'll see actually between Guild Target, Daring Raid, Migs, Rallying Cry, Chaos of War, and Sorgarara, there's 6 cards that deal burn damage to the base. Rallying Cry gives you whole board Raid 2. So if you just slam a Rallying Cry and you've got a couple things on the board, like that's a lot of extra damage. That's like 2, 4, 6 extra damage. And Arm to the Teeth can potentially do the same thing. Hot Shot, by the way, you're probably never smuggling in Hot Shot. You're probably just using it as a 1-cost like buff to attack, just to get cards out your hand. But yeah, essentially this is just a very low to the ground deck with a lot of burn tools to try and close out the game. How good is it? It's probably about tier 2. I think this probably isn't the best shell for like a super aggressive double red deck, but it's really fun and you get to like just use a lot of the new cards. And I will definitely be taking this to locals. Hey, maybe it's going to be really good, but remember, like aggro is always very, very strong on release, so
yeah,
you're probably
in every
for sure.
That's in every card game as well. I find like Battle Spirits is the worst for it. Like every time a new format comes out, everyone's just like, right, so white aggro is back on the menu, boys. Like it doesn't matter what comes out, it's always the same. But yeah, no, this deck looks incredibly fun. I like low to the ground aggro sometimes, and it's not easy to play aggro in Star Wars. I will stress that. Like, if players have practiced against it and are ready for you, then it can be quite difficult. But I mean, the upgrade in how powerful aggro seems to be in this new set seems a crazy ramp. What do you think, Ollie? Do you think the aggro's looking pretty fierce in this next set?
Yeah, I am a little bit scared of what's going to be going on with aggro in general. Both Red Villainy and Red Heroic have got some really good tools across the board.
The new Red Han leader, as we discussed last week on our
so good.
episode 2 tier list, guys. You can go check that out if you haven't already. We talked about all the leaders.
I am curious. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I did
go ahead.
Ask Chris why he's running the 30 health base instead of the Tarkin Town if the deck's looking to go super aggressive.
I basically my experience with like aggro decks in set 1 was and I think this is probably true for this deck too, is you probably get about 20 to 25 damage fairly easily in those first opening turns, and then your opponent is like looking to stabilize. And at that point you are basically trying to like deal burn damage. So the 30 HP base was a 2-point decision. One was it's probably buying me 1 extra turn versus a 25 HP base to just draw burn. And the second point was Tarkin Town. I don't know that I'm triggering it that easily in this deck. I appreciate that actually there's probably quite a nice synergy with guild target, where you can just like stack a couple guild targets on something, throw away one of your units and target down it to finish it. And honestly, that might be the way this is going, and that might be a good change to make. I'll try it out. I think that's a good idea. But yeah, it was mainly I was going like, okay, I probably want the extra turn to just draw some burn.
All right, cool. So yeah, no, it looks like a really cool deck. We definitely got to try some of these out for the channel. I think when we got the cards.
Oh yes,
maybe we could have some of these face off against each other.
Yeah, we'll do some silly monocolor decks. But no, I mean it looks really fun. Honestly, it doesn't look weak. I know you're saying it's tier 2, but it looks like if you're not prepared for it, then you're just going to get run over. Really.
Oh, it'll be really funny. I'm going to take this to locals, and it'll be really, really funny.
Yeah, maybe for you, not for your opponents. That's for sure. But yeah, let's move on. We're going to change speeds a bit with this next deck. So Ollie, this is actually This is actually created by a few of your friends as well, right?
Yeah.
Or
I can't.
Friends. Of course.
Yeah, exactly. I can't take any credit in building this. My focus recently has been very much on Battle Spirits and Masters, so I haven't had much time to really get to grips with a lot of the set 2 cards coming out. The main one that did stand out to me was Endless Legions, so I was planning to build a deck very focused around that.
We'll put that
but
up
when it came to...
We'll put that up on screen now. So basically... Endless Legions is... Well, you go ahead, Ollie. You tell them.
Yeah, so it's 14 mana, 14 resource, double green, and you reveal any number of resources you control, and then play each unit revealed this way for free. So it's kind of like a Hail Mary, but you get to play everything that you could ever ask for, really.
You win the game, surely, right? Like if you resolve that,
as long as it all sticks, you win the game, right?
Well, the name is Beerus, which actually relates to Dragon Ball. It's Beerus is a ramp deck that when you get to 16 energy, you pay 16 and win the game. So it's kind of, I think, a similar vibe, I guess, with getting to 14 and slapping that down. So yeah, why don't you take us through kind of the vibe of the deck and how it works, and then we'll get into the cards, the other cards.
Yeah, of course.
The key cards of the deck.
Yeah, no, I have to give a massive shout out to Peter and Tom for working on this deck together. We've got a couple of alternative win lovers in our team, so when we saw the Endless Legions card, we were kind of like, okay, we've got to cook something. So
100%.
The idea for the deck. And I know previously Josh and Chris have gone through like the early turn plays. The early turns in this deck are you ramp. Turn 1, you play a unit, doesn't matter. Turn 2, you ramp. Turn 3, you ramp. Turn 4, you ramp. Turn 5, you kill some units and ramp. Turn 6, you ramp. You just got to keep going.
So what ramp options do we have? I'm guessing
we've got a lot of new ramp options in the new set. Obviously, green-black had very good ramp options initially with Super Laser Tech and Resupply, and because we've also gone double green aspect to get early access as we can to the Endless Legions, we've also got Command, which can potentially ramp again, and in the new set we've also got the 2-mana Bounty, which is Price on your head, which when the bounty is collected lets you ramp as well. And we've also got a very interesting card, Enterprising Lackeys, as another double green. It's a 4-mana double green.
That card. Super powerful, actually, yeah.
For sure, yeah. When it's defeated, you can defeat a friendly resource and basically swap it out with this card when it dies.
And that's a 5/5 for 4 energy, guys. Which is dumb.
Really
and it has smuggle, so when you put it
also
back in,
smuggles in for 6,
which is wild. So you can then ramp it, bring it back out and ramp it again if you wish. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a big part of this card, especially in this deck as well, is the fact that not only are you able to, keep presenting it as a body to try and trade down the board as you ramp, but it also allows you to sort of switch out your energy however you want. So if, for example, you resupplied earlier on, when this dies, you can get rid of the resupply, put this into your resource, and then when it comes to your next turn, you can smuggle it out and replace that with a card from the top of the deck, which is hopefully going to be one of your bigger cards that you can then bring out off of Endless Legion.
Yeah, obviously you're trying to get all of your your top end in there. So do you want to go through some of the top end that's off aspect? Just
of course,
because that's kind of it's got casino Han vibes, It's that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's a few off aspect big guys, which obviously the main intention is to be just brought off of Endless Legion, as you play everything for free regardless of the aspect. So we've got the one of Redemption, which can be super clutch if you need to heal later on. If you're getting very low on life against maybe a Kylo or something, you can heal. And then you got the one of Avenger, because it's Avenger, and who doesn't love destroying your opponent's units? And then we've also got the one of new card, which is the dragon, the Crypt Dragon.
Yeah, that thing's wild. 10/10, 9 cost.
Overwhelm. And it's just going to start burning your opponent every time they play cards. So that can be almost a win condition in itself.
That card seems incredibly powerful, to be honest.
So, quick question. Was there a reason you're only playing one copy of Crate Dragon?
I think it's just because if you we're getting to the point where there's a lot of big units that we want to play.
I just love
and as good as the card is, and bringing out multiples because it's not even unique.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I feel like if we get the ideal setup with Endless Legions, then it doesn't necessarily matter that we have that card specifically down.
It definitely doesn't matter with some of these cards. So let's go through some of the others. So you got Devastator there.
Devastator's great, especially for stabilization. Like, this is the kind of card, and it's on aspect as well. This is the kind of card that you can play in the mid to late game to start to stabilize towards your Endless Legions.
Well, here's another one of your new ones as well. So you have the Finalizer.
A Finalizer, yeah. So this ties in with the idea of the deck and the combo, because the idea with the deck is obviously you want to resolve Endless Legions, but if your opponent has a way to deal with the board once you've spawned all these massive units, like a Super Laser Blast is going to be the main issue. Or potentially trading down whatever you've brought out.
Oh, you've also got evacuation to worry about as well, where
exactly
bounce the whole board.
Then the issue is going to become, I've just spent all of my resources, and I've also played all my resources. So next turn I'm going to be on like 3 or 4 resource again, and I'm just losing the game. So the idea of the deck is to spawn all of these units and spawn cards, the Finalizer being one of them, to prevent your opponent from being able to do anything to deal with the board. Okay. So the Finalizer is obviously there to eat up the entire board, which will stop them taking a whole turn to swing at your base where you've just tapped out, but also stop them trading down into some of your units to try and mitigate the fact that they're going to die next turn. And a couple of the other cards to help with that idea is the 2 copies of Relentless, which are in the build, which are obviously going to be amazing to deal with any sort of Super Laser Blast shenanigans going on, as well as the 1 copy of the Regional Governor.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cheeky. I was like, why has he sent me this as one of his cards? Oh, because it makes sense, because it actually makes the deck viable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is like the kind of card that could maybe even go higher in copies, because you can just hardcast it for 4 and it's not too bad, and it's also an Imperial for the Emperor's Royal Guard.
Well, the other thing is it's also not unique. So say you've got multiple threats that you're worried about, you could play 4 of them from your energy and be like Super Laser Blast. Just basically anything that's in your hand, especially with those cheeky Spark of Rebellions in the sideboard. You could do a Spark of Rebellion, check their whole hand, then do the Legions, then just that'd be jokes. Just name their whole hand and be like, you're done.
Yeah, so this is another card that in theory you can pay for it, but the idea is you bring it off the Endless Legion. Even though it's just a 2-drop, you get so much value from the fact that it protects you from a Super Laser Blast. Like, if you can bring this down with a Relentless and a board full of massive ships, like, there's no real way that they're going to deal with that.
I've got a lot of love for this card. I can't lie. When I made my Han Blue deck, I put this in the main because I just thought it would be funny to try and guess people's plays, depending on their decks. And when I took it to locals, man, I would play it turn 1 and I'd sit there for 30 seconds staring at my opponent, just like, are you going to play an A-Wing? Are you going to do it? And yeah, 2 times during the locals, I got the call correct with it, and it basically cost them the game. They said both times. So this card should not be slept on, especially considering it's blue only. It's not even an Imperial, even though it's an Imperial officer. It's such a nice card.
And then going on to sort of the rest of the deck, we do have the 1 copy of Search Your Feelings, which is going to be mainly to grab the Endless Legions.
That's got Peter Dance written all over it. He loves.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
He loves.
But yeah, you can sort of grab whatever you need for the situation, but mainly Endless Legions. And then there's also the new 8-drop, which I can't remember. I think it's the Assault Cruiser.
Yeah. The 7/8. Capital ship with
and it's
ambush.
got ambush. And when it attacks and defeats a non-leader unit, you can put the defeated unit into play as a resource under your control. So it's able to remove your opponent's board and ramp you, which is kind of both the things you want in the deck.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're ramping on curve, like how you said you want to, like turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, that will come out really quickly. That will become one of your earlier game ramps, like by turn.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess how quickly can you get to 8 energy with if you're? I guess it would be like turn
4, I think.
Yeah, turn 4 or 5.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that would be crazy. And then,
but then another, little hidden part of this card is the fact that with Endless Legions, if you're killing your opponent's units and putting them into your resource, when you drop Endless Legions, you can then start playing your opponent's cards out that you've ramped.
That is so
which is absolutely hilarious.
That's disgusting. Yeah. That's
like you just try and hit out the opponent's most expensive units.
Yeah, so you're like farming basically. Like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
And then hopefully, if they're real money cards, you have like the same sleeves, you just shuffle them into your deck.
Just walk away. Just make sure you take it out before the next game and put it in your binder, because you don't want to get DQ'd. But
this is the absolute counter to the Darth Vader unit, because it kills the Darth Vader and then you steal it, shove it into your deck, and walk off. Plus 70 quid right there.
Sounds legit. So yeah, no, a really fun strategy. I think people will try and play this. It's just too tempting, isn't it? That pay 14 to do something crazy. It's really, really interesting.
It's a hilarious.
As far as having legs to do well competitively, it's touch and go. I think, especially if you're focusing. If your game plan is just to ramp for the first 5 turns, you're gonna be taking a good beating. But what do you think? Do you think it's got legs to do well?
I mean, it's definitely the kind of deck that is going to struggle against aggro, which is why we've got a lot of anti-aggro early units in the.
Yeah, I mean,
the Laren, the Royal Guard,
Star Viper in the main. That's pretty nice. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, in the early turns, if you are against aggro, it will play like a normal Palpatine deck, and if you can get to the point where you're like dropping an overwhelming barrage, you're probably stabilized.
Yeah. Overwhelming barrage does continue to be a real sort of crutch card for. Green Imperial, and I actually did a bit of testing with it in Han Green, and it was so good. Honestly, paying 7 for it even feels really, really powerful in some instances, especially playing Rebels and people don't expect it. Then you just play it and clear their board. Outrageously powerful card, but I think it will continue to. I think it's a card that will continue to be. It will continue to grow in strength as the units get stronger, so
yeah, and as the leaders get stronger with their early deploys.
Yeah.
I mean, Palpatine is notoriously going to get beat down by aggro no matter what the build is, really. So the deck is going to struggle against aggro. What can I say?
Yeah,
but
I mean, most decks do. Let's be honest. Yeah, most decks do.
Yeah, outside of that, mid range might be okay if you can get there, if you can keep control of the board, but it is missing like the normal blue tools that you might play in Palpatine with like Super Laser Blast to really stabilize. Control, Palpatine always wins, but when it comes to like hard control, where Palpatine may have normally struggled, that's where the Endless Legions, I think, will really come to shine, because you have all the time in the world to get there, and then you can drop Endless Legions, As long as your opponent doesn't have a Relentless of their own, you can drop the, Exodia OTK combo, Relentless, finalize Original Governor, plus whatever else, and your opponent can just sit there and look at you with all your ships.
And then your units will internally argue over who's going to get the kill shot because they've all got like 8+ damage. Like crazy deck. But yeah, it looks like a whole lot of fun. It's definitely something I would explore. I really love the Beer Assault win con. So yeah, very very fun ideas. So yeah, thanks both of you guys for bringing those to the table. I think all three of them are quite interesting, and yeah, like I said, guys, we will be putting them into the description. So if you wanna test it and maybe experiment with it and see if there's anything we're missing, and just let us know in the comments if you like it or not. So. But yeah, so that's about it for this week's episode. We will do our question time of the round. Do either of you guys happen to have a question you want to ask, or should I think of something off the top of my head?
I did actually think of one in preparation because I had a feeling that I might get asked.
Wow, that is what we like to hear, Ollie. So go on, fire away.
I was thinking, what with us going to Milan in a couple of days, I was thinking a good question to ask would be, when it comes to visiting a new country or new place, what are your guys' go-to things to do? Like the first thing on your mind when you visit a new country?
Ooh, I'll take it first. I mean, so full disclosure, I love traveling. I started being a musician at a young age because I wanted to travel, and I thought touring would be a really great way to do that because I'd meet like-minded people around the world. So yeah, no, honestly, my first say if I go to a city, what I really love to do is actually, I know it sounds really generic and boring, but it's just to walk around the central part of the city, get the vibe, look at the architecture, maybe go in a few shops, even speak to people and not randomly go up to people and be like hello, just go into a shop and buy something, and just kind of get the vibe of the place, because everywhere's different. Even small details can be different between countries which are slap bang right next to each other. So yeah, just general exploration of the city is my bag, really, as well as meeting people that are from that like the things I like from a different country, which is also ties in with why I really like doing the card stuff, going to card events, because we're all quite different, but we all have that fundamental nexus, let's say, which brings us all together, which is the card games. So yeah, I mean, I think just the people and the culture is definitely my go-to.
Fair enough. I was going to say, for me, it's definitely the food. I like trying new foods. And
I was literally about to say this. I was like, Josh, he's got this great long monologue. I don't know, man. Whatever.
Food ties in though. I mean, I was going to say, I was obviously going to say food first.
I'm on Google Maps. I'm like, all right, where are we going? I'm finding the reviews. I'm plotting the route based around where the food is. I mean, good drinks, good bars. I'm like, get me in there, man.
On that front, would you strictly look for something? With food, would you look for something local, like something that's, say, for example, if you went to Japan, would you initially go for a Japanese dish, or?
Yeah, I try not to eat but I mean, obviously,
McDonald's.
I try not to eat the generic obviously if I'm in somewhere for an extended period of time, then I might want some comfort food, but if I go to France, I'm gonna try and eat French food. I'm gonna try and avoid Italian food. I'm gonna try and avoid Chinese food, Japanese food, or whatever, because you're only there for a couple of days, and you might as well enjoy the authentic stuff that's there, because it's probably gonna be good. I feel like that you either eat to live or live to eat, and I very much live to eat. So I am there for it.
Yeah, I hear you on that one, man. I hear you on that one. But yeah, no, great question, Ollie. So yeah, thanks everyone for checking us out. Hopefully we will have some more content for you. I actually fell sick whilst we were recording it yesterday, but we are going to try and get that in before we head off to Milan. But yeah, we'll be back soon next week with another episode. We don't really have any context yet, but next week will be just before pre-release. So actually, no, we do have an idea. Chris had a great idea, and we're going to talk about just advice on how to play sealed events and draft. I'm not particularly good at them, but I know Ollie's really a big fan of it, and Chris, you've done quite a lot of it. I'm more of a new player to that sort of aspect of the game, but something I want to learn, because obviously with pre-release, that's how it works. You get the pre-release box and you make a deck.
I suspect that, sorry, this is pure tinfoil hat time for the end of the podcast, but we know that the World's Finals is going to be like a 3-day event, and we also know it seems heavily inspired by previous games. And as I recall, Magic the Gathering, one of the days of the Pro Tour was draft. So I feel like getting good at sealed and getting good at draft might be a beneficial thing to do. So get you practicing now.
Definitely. All right. So yeah, thanks again, guys. Pleasure to have you, and thanks, Emmy, just existing, really. Emmy, full disclosure, Emmy is away on a work trip, but he will be back next week, and he does apologise for not being here. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. We've had a great time as always, and yeah, we will see you very soon. And thanks for all the views. It's a very new venture for us. I think between our 4 videos, we've had about 600 or 700 views already, which seems kind of crazy to me. So yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying the content, and give us any feedback if there's anything you want to see. But other than that, we will see you all later. Bye bye.